there, welcome to the Teeny Tinkers channel. I make ball jointed doll and craft related content. I recently posted an update for my hollow doll who I designed, and she came and you got to see all of her cuteness, but I thought I would do a video showing you how I finished her because these parts were just 3D printed in resin. A lot of them still had all of the supports and everything, and I wanted to show you the process of kind of finishing each of these pieces, just in case getting into 3D printing or having a doll 3D printed was something you were interested in. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. For this video, I'm going to be finishing my lilac hollow. Spoilers, she turns out really cute, but I'm going to show you how to get rid of all these supports and how to get her nice and smooth and really nice quality. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first step is to remove the supports. Kasha recommended that I use clippers, which I didn't have, so I used these little scissors instead. Some of the parts already had the supports removed because I had been removing them to make sure the pieces fit together on the torso and check the colors. So you can see where there's some remnants here where I tugged those out. But most of the pieces still had all of the supports or the internal supports, so I had to go ahead and remove them myself. Gather up all the pieces where you need to remove the supports and kind of get them together. I also recommend having a garbage bag on hand. From there, all you need to do is take out your scissors or your clippers or your pliers or whatever you're using and remove all of the little supports. As mentioned, you should be wearing a mask for this part. I was wearing a mask for this part because you are kind of releasing resin particles into the air. Same as when you're sanding, so strong recommend on the mask. If I could go back and do this again, I would also say if you have work gloves, wear those because these supports can be pretty sharp and they can kind of poke your skin. And if you're like me, you can have these weird scrapes all over your hand. So yeah, wear gloves if you got them. And don't forget to clean up and give your desk a vacuum or your work surface a vacuum when you're done. Okay, now the time has come to wet sand. Now you don't have to wet sand, you can definitely use regular sandpaper. I just prefer wet sanding because it kind of traps all those resin particles and it's easier to see your progress in my opinion. It doesn't get dusty and messy, and I like to use about 3 different sizes. I use this first one, which is like pretty coarse. If it was bumpier or a lower quality print, I would have used something even coarser to begin, but this was fine. The second one is still pretty gritty, but definitely would leave little scratches if you didn't finish it. And then finally, I have this one, which is kind of a polishing sponge, and that's the last one we use, obviously, and it fits into all the cracks beautifully. I love this one. Okay, so let's start with the torso piece. This is always my favorite part to sand. I don't know why. I think it's because it's one of the biggest pieces. But I just go in with the thick grit sponge, and go in circular motions. And I start at one hip and kind of work my way around slowly and try and make sure I get all the surface area. I'm also going to make sure that I get all the tops, like the hip joint and the leg joints, and smooth those out to avoid getting cracks later on if things get caught or anything like that. And of course, in the booty cracks, in the spine, all of the crevices, everything I possibly can reach, I'm going to with this sponge. Then I'll move on to the next sponge, and same thing, exact same pattern, but with a smaller sponge. This is sped up and there are pieces cut out. Just know that for each piece, I do tend to sand between 5 and 15 minutes. This piece was more like a 15-minute piece overall, but smaller pieces like lower arms and stuff can go a lot faster. Finally, here's the polisher, and again, just going over those same spots, making sure I'm not leaving anything. You can see how shiny it is now and how smooth. Just the difference with how the water looks on the resin, and oh my gosh, I just love the finish on these. oops, I forgot to go get my towel. Have a towel on hand so you can dry off the pieces or let them air dry. I like to give them a quick rub and then you can kind of see how well it polished up. Also, here's a quick comparison. You can see an unsanded piece has a lot more of those print lines, a lot more texture, the bumps from the supports, all of that stuff that we don't want, and the nice polished piece doesn't have that. So you're gonna go ahead, rinse and repeat literally for all of your other pieces until all of them are sanded and smooth. Who doesn't love stringing? Who doesn't dream about stringing? Okay, in all seriousness, stringing sucks. We're gonna get through it together. I recommend sorting your parts, getting them all where you need them. I like to use this metal wire knitting needle. I have like a 1/2 centimeter bungee cord, a pair of scissors, sometimes a needle, and these like plier things, needle nose pliers. So first I'm gonna string the top torso, so I'm gonna pull all these other pieces out of the way so they're not distracting me. Here we are, we have all the pieces we need. We have 2 bicep shoulder pieces, 2 forearms, 2 elbows, 2 wrists, 2 hands, and a chest piece. So I'm gonna cut my elastic generously. I used to try and conserve as much elastic as possible, but it made stringing so much harder. So if you can spare a little bit of elastic, you can spare yourself a headache, which is what I do. The hands are going to attach with magnets, so I don't really need them right now. I'm gonna start by making sure all the pieces fit together and that I'm stringing them on the correct side. Do not skip this step or you might have backwards arms. The first one I strung had backwards arms. You don't want this to happen. Check them first. Okay, so I'm going to start by stringing the bottom of this wrist. And this doll doesn't have S hooks, but if it had S hooks, you could obviously just string onto the S hook. Instead, I'm going to loop in through the resin like nodule thing and then string up the arm with both sides of the string. I do also like to keep 1/2 longer so that it can kind of wind down through the other side. You'll see that in a second. And then back up, and then I can tie it off. But yeah, let's string this side first, one side at a time. Bendy, bendy. So that fit is really good. I'm very happy with that. I'm gonna string both parts again through the torso. One side is shorter, one side is longer. This is where you'll really see that come into play. Also, if you can hear a dog barking in the distance, sorry about that. It will not stop barking because there is a bird that will not stop chirping. Okay, so I'm gonna put the short side up. Oh my god, a crow joins the party. And okay, now I'm gonna string down through the shoulder. Again, one string through the elbow, one string through the forearm. Okay, now that the wrist is all strung, I'm gonna go back up. I wanna make sure to pull it taut. So number 1, it will go through easily, and number 2, it will have some tension when I get it back to the top, so I'm not having to refangle the whole thing. Once I get it to the shoulder, I'm gonna go ahead and just double knot it and then cut it. Because from here, you can very easily take the ends, turn them, and push them back into the torso, which is my preferred way of stringing the torso. Just like that. There we go. Both elbows work, everything's on the right side. Looking good. It's time for some legs and some lower torso. This is the same idea. Again, the feet don't have S hooks, so I'm doing the exact same thing as I did on the wrist. Same process. So through the little footy nodule thing, and then up through the shin, and then up through the knee, and then up through the thigh. Like the first arm I did, I'm going to be going with both all the way up, just so, you know, it's easier. And like the arms, I am keeping one side significantly longer than the other for the exact same reasons. So I'm at the top here. I am going to push them up through the butt section. I don't need the belly ball right now, so I'm going to move that. So both pieces up through the coordinating leg and then up through the top of the torso. So right here I'm separating short string on one side. The long one is going back down through the other leg hole eventually and down. Same idea as the arms here. Okay, so we're going to try and keep some tension here. It's not as important here unless you like a really, really tight string. And I'm going to go with the single strand of elastic there, down through the thigh, through the knee, through the shin, and then around the little foot nodule hook moment. And then we're going to, of course, go right back up and pull it up through the top of the torso. Once you have both pieces up like this, you can go ahead and just tie them off in a knot. It's going to be pretty low in, but because the legs are pretty loose, this is all going to come out in the wash. So tie it tight so it's down with the other one and snip off the extra. Now I'm going to go get out my pliers and use them to pull the strings up, both of them, and then use that knitting needle with the wire. Don't use one with like not the wire base because it won't work. And just kind of thread the needle, literally, but with a doll on all the pieces. This is the easiest way to get all the pieces together. Okay, the body is strung. All we need to do is get the head on. I ran out of S-hooks, of course, so I'm improvising with a bobby pin for now while I wait for another S-hook to come in the mail. So I'm just going to slide the head down, pull it through, and then put my makeshift S-hook on there. Typically this would be a normal S-hook, but you know, makeshift S-hook for the win. Gonna just slide that in there to hold the head on. This is the last step, and for me the messiest step, because I need to super glue the magnets onto this girl. She takes 8 magnets, that's 2 for each wrist, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, left, right, and then also 4 for the head cap, so again 2 on the head cap and then 2 on the head. So I just use regular Gorilla Glue, super glue, and I just put a dab using this like silicone brush thing onto, yeah, look at all the glue on there, ooh, onto each of the wrist plates and then into the hands. And then you just add the coordinating magnets. Now, what I do is I grab the magnets in sets of 2s and I make sure they're facing the right side so they're stuck together. And then I peel them apart and make sure that the parts that need to face the glue are on each thumb. And then I can slide them on, because honestly, you're going to get mixed up if you don't do something like that. Find a system that works for you. But it sucks so much when your doll dries and the magnet is facing the wrong way, and instead of the hand being held on, it flies away. So, you know, happiness, hands on, head cap on. Just make sure your magnets are on the right way, guys. Big recommend. Make a system. You don't want to have to try and dissolve the glue and put it on again. It's too much of a hassle. Save yourself. So this is essentially it. A heads up that if you do have a 3D printed doll, they can get this like white powdery stuff on them from moving. It wipes right off. I'm pretty sure it's just resin dust, which probably isn't great. I imagine I'll also be able to seal them and then this won't happen anymore. So I'll be doing that as well. Let me know if you've ever 3D printed a doll, and if you have any tips for finishing that I didn't try. I'd really love to know what everyone else is doing too. If you're already subscribed to my channel, thank you so much for subscribing. If you're new here, I hope you like the content and will consider subscribing. Don't forget to go follow me on Instagram, because I'm going to be giving away one of these girls to a new home, and I'm really excited about it. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye!